Hi friends, so in this section I'm going to discuss some of the Colonial Act. As we know, this Colonial Act form the basis of Indian history as well as Indian polity. Okay, so before going to the topic, so this is my short note and I'm taking class with my short notes and I'm also an aspirant. So those students who are interested to follow my channel, okay, uh, you can join with me. Okay, let's go to the topic. Okay, Colonial Act. So before going to the acts, you have to understand one thing that this date 1608 in Indian history is one of the most important date. Okay, 1608, where British came in India as traders. Okay, why they came in India? For the purpose of trading. Okay, before they came in 1600. So this is the milestone year. 1600, what happened? Queen, the British Queen grant permission. British Queen grant permission to trading in Indian Ocean. Okay. So the British Queen grant permission for trading in Indian Ocean in 1600s. Okay, after getting that permission in 1608, the British came in India as traders. So for the purpose of easiness, they made East India Company. It's called the English East India Company. Okay, from traders, they gradually become the territorial power. Okay, this is the point. From traders, they gradually become the territorial power. In 1675, they got English East India Company got the Diwani power of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, these are the princely states. Okay, these are the princely states. The princely states are ruled by Devans. Okay, the princely states are ruled by Devans. So in 1765, the East India Company got the Diwani power of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Diwani power means nothing but the right over revenue and their civil justice. Okay, the right over revenue and civil justice, which constitute half of the administration. Okay, so in 1765, they got the Diwani power of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Gradually, they become territorial power. Okay, so British came as traders and gradually they become the territorial power. So you should remember this date 1858 and 1947. Okay, the period between 1858 and 1947. So what happened in 1857? 1857 is the first war of independence. Okay, after the first war of independence, so Mughal dynasty completely declined. Okay, in India the Mughal dynasty is completely declined. Okay, so in 1858 the British crown directly take over the ruling ruling of India. Okay, so in between the periods of 1858 and 1947, the British crown directly ruled India. Okay, for her ruling, she divided the act into two forms, that is, one is company rule and one is crown rule. Okay, one is company rule and one is crown rule. So the company rules start from 1773 and end in 1858. Okay, 1773 Regulating Act and 1858 Charter Act. Okay, the company rules start at 1773 Regulating Act and end in 1858 Charter Act. Okay, so these rules, all these rules for the purpose of regulating the company affairs. Okay, and after 1858 to 1947, these rules are commonly called the Crown's rule. Okay, so we are going to discuss the company rules. So in this video I am going to discuss the company rules. So and in our next class we will discuss the crown rule. Okay, so this is the significant period 1858 to 1947. India is directly ruled by British crown. Okay, so which is two type of rules, that is company rule and crown rule. Okay, company rule. So the company rule consists of Regulating Act 1773, its Amendment Act 1783, Pitt's India Act 1784, Act of 1786 and Charter Act. It's a series of acts, Charter Act 1793, 1813, 1833 and 1853. After the Charter Act, here start the Government of India Act 1858. From Government of India, these acts are called Crown Rule. Okay. Then Indian Council Acts. Council Acts 1861, 1892, 1909 and Government of India Act 1919, Government of India Act 1935, Indian Independence Act 1947. Okay. So, here we are going to the company rule. It's period between 1773 and 1858. Okay, the first act or first rule is Regulating Act, which is implemented in 1773. Okay, the first rule is Regulating Act, which is implemented in 1773. As the name indicate, regulating means something that regulate. Okay, something that regulate the political and administrative affairs of the company. Okay, the why this act is implemented. Okay, why this Regulating Act 1773 is implemented? The reason is to control the English East India Company, its political and administrative affairs. Why? Because when British came in India, they established English East India Company and they completely exploited the Indian revenue and completely degraded the Indian administrative structure. So the British decided to regulate or control the company's political and administrative affairs. For controlling the company, they implemented the first company rule, which is Regulating Act 1773. And this act also formed the base for the administration in India. Okay. So the main change bring the act. Okay, what is the main change bring by the Regulating Act is the government of the Governor General is the post of Governor General is converted into Governor General of Bengal. Okay, sorry. So the Governor General is converted into the Governor General of Bengal and an executive council having 4 members to assist the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, the Governor General is converted into Governor General of Bengal and an executive council of 4 members to assist Governor General of Bengal. So who is the first Governor General of Bengal? Warren Hastings. Okay, Warren Hastings is the first Governor General of Bengal. Okay, so there is also 2 independent presidencies like Bengal. This is Bombay and sorry, I got one mistake. Madras, Bombay and Madras. So these 2 independent presidencies also took over by the Governor General of Bengal, that is Warren Hastings. Okay. So the Regulating Act established the Supreme Court at Calcutta in 1774. Okay, it consists of 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges. Okay, the Regulating Act established Supreme Court at Calcutta in 1774. It consists of 1 Chief Justice and 3 other judges, and also the appointment of directors of court of directors. This court of directors is the governing body of the company. Okay, this court of directors constitute the governing body of the company. What is their function? Okay, what is their function? To report the revenue, civil and military affairs of the company. Okay, so we are going to the next rule is, so the Regulating Act had some of the demerits. Okay, to overcome that demerits, they amended the Act and implemented Amendment Act 1781. Okay, Amendment Act 1781. So this Act is also called Act of Settlement. Okay, this Amendment Act is also called Act of Settlement. Okay, so what is the main features of the Act? So you should remember these features. Okay, Governor General and the Council, servants of the company and revenue matters. These all things are exempted from the jurisdiction of Supreme Court. In the earlier Act, we had already told that the Regulating Act 1773 that established the Supreme Court at Calcutta. So in Amendment Act, that is the Act of Settlement, the Governor General's Council, servants of the company and its revenue matters. These all factors are exempted from the jurisdiction of the company. The jurisdiction of Supreme Court, and the jurisdiction of Supreme Court is only for the inhabitants of Calcutta. Okay, the jurisdiction of Supreme Court made only for the inhabitants of Calcutta. Okay, So it's also required the court of administrators based on the personal law. That means Hindus are coded by Hindu law and Muslims are coded by Muhammadian law. Okay, so the Governor General also empowered to make a provision to regulate a provisional court and councils. Okay, the Governor General also empowered to make provisions to regulate provisional court and councils. And also they made one thing, that the appeal from the provisional court must go to Governor General's council, not to Supreme Court. Okay, the appeal from the provisional court directly go to Governor General's council, not to Supreme Court. The next act is Pitt's India Act. Okay, 1884. Pitt's India Act 1784. Why this act is called the Pitt's India Act? Because the act is introduced by William Pitt, the then Prime Minister of British. Okay, the then Prime Minister of British. The William Pitt, he introduced the bill into the British Parliament. Okay, so the act is called the Pitt's India Act. Okay, so the act differentiated the Governor General's body into two. That is, one is court of directors and one is board of control. Okay, one is court of directors and one is board of control. So the court of directors has their function to control the commercial affairs of the company. Okay, what is the function of court of directors? To control the commercial affairs of the company. And what is the function of board of control? So board of control is a newly created body. Okay, the board of control is a newly created body. Its function is to manage political affairs, empowered to supervise and direct all the operations of the company. Okay, the board of control is empowered to supervise and direct all the operations of the company. That means civil, military and revenue matters of British possession areas. Okay, civil, military and revenue matters of British possession areas. Okay, so why the act is important? For two reasons the act is important. Okay, these two provisions make the act is more important, because for the first time companies possession areas are called British possession areas. Okay, for the first time company possession areas are termed as British possession areas, and the British government got the complete control of the company's affair. Okay, the British government got the supreme control of the company's affairs. Okay, the next act is Act of 1786. This act is introduced by this act is introduced for introduced to the demand of Lord Cornwallis. Okay, in 1786 Lord Cornwallis is appointed as the Governor General of Bengal. Okay, in 1786 Lord Cornwallis is appointed as the Governor General of Bengal, but he had two demands. Okay, what are the demands? In special cases his decision should be dominant. Okay, if any the special cases arises, his decision should be dominant and he should be the commander in chief. Okay, he should be the commander in chief. So these two decisions are approved by Act of 1786. Okay, Act of 1786 that approved the two decisions of Lord Cornwallis. In 1786 Lord Cornwallis made the Governor General of Bengal by approving his two demands. Okay, the next act is Charter Act. Okay, here starting the series of Charter Act. So Charter Act 1793. In Charter Act 1793, what happened? In the previous act, we already said that here two demands that are approved. Okay, two demands of Lord Cornwallis was approved. Okay, in Charter Act 1793, the power given to Lord Cornwallis that extended to other Governor Generals of the territory and governors of other presidencies. Okay, so he gave two demands, and that demands are also approved. That power given to Lord Cornwallis that extended to all other Governor Generals of the territory and governors of the other presidencies. Okay, the subordinate presidencies Bombay and Madras that also got controlling power to Governor General. Okay, the controlling power of other subordinate presidencies Bombay and Madras that go to Governor General of Bengal. Okay, Governor General of Bengal. And by Charter Act 1793, the trade monopoly of company extended to another 20 years. Okay, by Charter Act 1793, the trade monopoly of company. Okay, company is the only sole trading in Indian Ocean. Okay, the trade monopoly of company extended to another 20 years. Okay, the commander-in-chief, until he appointed, so he is not a member of council. Okay, the commander-in-chief, until he is appointed, so was not a member of council. Okay, and it's also created board of control, the members and staff. Okay, the board of control, the members and staffs of the board of control, they should be paid from the salary of, they should be paid from Indian revenue. Okay, their salary should be paid from Indian revenue. Okay, these are the main features of Charter Act 1793. Okay, then Charter Act 1830. In Charter Act 1830, the sovereignty of companies' territorial areas, that completely goes to British Crown. Okay, in Charter Act 1833, by Charter Act 1833, the British Crown got the sovereignty of companies' territorial area, that complete territorial area of company. Okay, so the Charter Act 1833 ended the monopoly of the company in India. Okay, Charter Act 1813 ended the monopoly of company in India, and the trade open to all British merchants also. Okay, the trade open to all other British merchants, and the company continued trade, and the company allowed to continue its trade in tea and also with China. Okay, the company allowed to continue its trade in tea and also trade with China, and the monopoly is open to all British merchants also, and which ended the monopoly of the company. The Charter Act 1833 allowed the Christian missionaries to came in India for the purpose of enlightening people. Okay, the Charter Act 1833 it allowed the Christian missionaries to came in India for the purpose of enlightening people. It's also spread the Western education only in the inhabitants of British territory. Okay, the Act also spread the Western education only in the inhabitants of British territory. Though you should remember this point, the Western education spread only in the inhabitants of British territory. Okay, it empowered the local self-government. This is the most important point of Charter Act 1813. It empowered the local government of India to impose tax on the inhabitants. To impose tax on inhabitants, if they are not paid, they give punishments. Okay. The next act is Charter Act 1833. Okay, Charter Act 1833, you should remember one thing. This act is also called Saint Helena Act. Saint Helena Act or Government of India Act 1833. Okay, you should remember this act. Charter Act 1833 is also called Saint Helena Act and Government of India Act 1833. Okay, so this Charter Act 1833 is the final step toward the centralization of British in India. Okay, the Charter Act 1833, the final step toward the centralization of British in India. So by this Act 1833, the Governor General of Bengal made Governor General of India. Okay, and Governor General of India is the sole power in India. Okay, the Governor General of Bengal made Governor General of India, and he got all the civil and military power. The Governor General of India got all the civil and military power. Who is the first Governor General of India? Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. Okay, Lord William Bentinck was the first Governor General of India. The entire possession areas under the authority of Governor General of India. Okay, the entire British possession areas made under the control of Governor General of India. Okay, and that means he got exclusive power of entire British India. At the same time, the governors of Bombay and Madras, the other princely state Bombay and Madras, the governors of Bombay and Madras, they lost their power. Okay. And the most important feature of Charter Act 1833 is the act end the activities of English East India Company as a commercial body. Okay, The act merged the company into a purely administrative body. Okay, the act ended the activities of English East India Company as a commercial body and become it's a purely administrative body. Okay, the act introduced an open competitive system for the for Indians and British. Okay, open competitive system. This is called a selection of civil servants, and they are not debarred Indians from the post of the company. Okay, they not debarred already appointed Indians from the posts of the company. The final act is Charter Act 1853. This act is the final act of this series. Okay, Charter Act 1853 is the final act of this series. Why Charter Act 1853 is more important? Okay, why this act is more important? For the first time, the act separated the Governor General's Council into its legislative functions and executive functions. Okay, the legislative functions are controlled by a no body, that is separate legislative council called Indian or Central Legislative Council. Okay, its legislative functions are controlled by a no body called Indian or Central Legislative Council. Okay, they add 6 new members to the Legislative Council. They are called legislative councillors, and this Indian or Central Legislative Council function as a mini parliament by adopting the same procedure of British Parliament. Okay, this Indian Legislative Council or Central Legislative Council act as a mini parliament by adopting the same procedures of British Parliament. And this act also implemented open competitive system. And here the Covenant Civil Service is open to all Indians also. Here the Covenant Civil Service is open to all Indians also. And you should remember this introduced for the first time Indian or Central Legislative Council. It introduced first Indian or Central Legislative Council. Okay, so it contained the local representation. Okay, it contained the local representation from different territories, and 6 new members added to the Governor General's Council. 6 new members added to the Governor General's Council and 4 members from the local or provincial government. These 4 members are selected from Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. Madras, Bombay, Bengal and Agra. Here in the Colonial Act, the company rules are discussed in this class. We will discuss the ground rule in next class. Okay, thank you.